My hat! Right, I'm going to try to keep this body on camera, but it is quite large, so it doesn't really quite fit here in the setup. But if you're new to the hobby, and you want to buy a body and just cut it up, let's just say you're into drag. Now, this isn't necessarily going to go into a drag car. It might, I haven't decided, but something that you're going to need is a body reamer. This is something that you're going to need usually toward the end to dream a few little holes for the body mounts. But you're going to need lexan scissors. Now, these came in a pair. They're by Dynamite. They're actually very good. I've cut quite a lot of lexan with them, and they're still sharp. And that's the important thing. You need really sharp scissors. Now, do recommend that you have a straight cut and then a curved cut. With these, I just wish they made scissors that were on the other side as well, a 3-pack. I have not seen them. With metalworking, they do. You can buy scissors that curve this way and then the other way. Yes, you can flip the scissors, but that doesn't really help because of the way that these open. So if this thing opened the other way where the right side would come up and the left side would go down while going right, it really helps depending on which way you're cutting. Instead of having to turn the object. You're gonna see, because sometimes I'm gonna have to run the scissors beneath, and it would be easier if I could run them above. But it doesn't work because once you turn them, the curve is toward the wrong side. That's the reason why. So if any of you watching know of the scissors that are curved the opposite direction, please let me know, because I've been looking for them unsuccessfully. All right, so this is a Proline 67 body. This happens to be number 3573. So 3573. This is a newer model that came out, and I just had to have it. To be honest, this thing, I'd been waiting for almost 3 months for it. But here we go. So one of the things that I like doing is I like separating any components that I don't need to work on right now. So that'll be the wing. So the wing, I'm just going to do a cut, run it through here, and then go down. The less excess lexan I have to worry about, the best, and you can just use your straight scissors for this. And the sharper the scissors, the better. Now, one of the things too with lexan, you want to be very careful with it. Do not run your fingers on the edge, any part of your hand. It will cut you. Lexan is pretty sharp. All right, so that is the wing. I'm going to set the wing off to the side. Don't need it now. But once you do that, this makes it a lot easier to handle the body and trim it. So at this point, you can begin with the wheel wells. And for the wheel wells, I'm going to try to cut to the left with my curved scissors. And I'm going to try to follow this. Now, it's better that you undercut than overcut, because if you undercut, you can always go back and fix the trim. But if you overcut, that just means that you went into your body. You can't fix your body once you screwed that up. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, this is something that I was mentioning. So notice that when you go to the left, the scissors are on top. If I were cutting to the right, which sometimes I want to hold my scissors with my left hand, the scissors would go under the body, making it difficult to make the cuts because I would just be scratching this area here. So if I went this way, scissors want to go underneath. I don't want gonna do it. Anyway, sometimes depending on the cut, if it's a really short cut, you'll end up running the scissors to the lexan. So with those, you're usually going to be cutting in one direction. All right, and that's it. Now these little pieces of lexan, I mean, you can recycle them, that's fine. You know, dispose of them. But you can also save them to trim little parts, say for the wings. You can make little winglets, things like that. So, you know, don't discard them all, especially these nice flat ones. These are a good idea to keep. You can also use them to repair broken bodies, just to reinforce parts. Later on, you just use the body reamer, make 2 little holes, put some screws through them. Well, first you would use double-sided tape, some form of double-sided tape. There's a thin Gorilla double-sided tape that I actually like using a lot. It's similar to duct tape, but it's double-sided, and it's thin. The adhesive is not... It's stronger than the gray stuff, but it's not as strong as the black Gorilla duct tape. But it's very, very good. It's strong enough to hold your ESC. It comes with a blue backing. That's what I like for body repair when I have to tape a piece of lexan on, because it's not very bulky. Now with these curved scissors, you can cut straight, but you're just gonna have to do really small, tiny cuts. So it just takes forever. That's one of the reasons why you want to use these straight ones. Now there is a small little curve in here. I'm gonna worry about that at the end, so don't bother with it right now. Right now you just wanna get as much of this excess off, and then you worry about the fine details later on. These little areas here, sometimes you have to just do small little cuts so you don't damage the lexan right on those curves. Luckily, this is a drag body, which means it's massive. This thing is massive size. You can't really tell by the camera, but once I finish trimming it, I will put it next to a 1/10 scale body, and I actually have one right here in the bag. It's so this one that I'm cutting now is a 67 Mustang. The one that I have in a bag is a 68, and you're gonna see the size difference between the two. Now, the type of car that this is going on, well, hopefully it'll go on, it just depends if I can manage to make it, will be a nitro. So I'm actually gonna have to cut a good portion of that rear, because that nitro it's actually a nitro slash, but I'm trying to convert it into a car. So I have to mess around with the arms, all that good stuff, and I'm leaving the rear bumper on it. So I will have to cut a good portion of the rear just to keep that bumper. Now, if you want to try to keep it in one piece, that's fine. I find that it gets in the way. So I just trim the pieces off. That's it. So there goes that piece. Try to handle the inside of the car this as little as possible. You will have to wash it afterwards with just any dish detergent works. For example, Dawn soap. I forget what the other brands are. Palmolive? I don't remember. I usually use Dawn. This is not a promotional video for them. That just happens to be a soap that I can find at Costco for a very good price, and it works. And the reason why you want to use those dish soaps is because of the grease removing agents. That's the reason why. So you want to get rid of all of the oils and greases that are on the body so that the paint does not fisheye. Now, if you've ever painted something and there was a little bit of grease or oil, one of the things that you noticed were those little fisheyes. Now, fisheyes are those little pin-like marks where the paint kind of separates, doesn't want to stick to that small little area. So that's what I'm referring to. You don't want that to happen. Now, this is a nice piece. I'll probably end up saving this piece. So I'm just going to do a straight cut here. Go up. And I'll go to there. And then I'll just cut cut this off and I'll save this. See, this is a really nice piece that I can use later on for repairs, this piece as well. And I am going to keep it like this as an angle. Sometimes you do need that. Sometimes on smaller cars you can even make a makeshift wing with something like this. It already has this well-defined edge. So if you're doing some custom work, maybe you're doing some speed runs and you need just a wing, you don't want to spend say $10 on a lexan wing, well, this is one way to do it, right? You just have to trim this here, there, do some of the little items. That's one way. Here we go. So if you've never cut lexan before, or maybe you have, and you've never used curved scissors, there's always a proper tool for a job, and curved scissors are the proper tool for this job. Now, I know some people use a hot knife. I don't really like them for this. They're good for the thicker lexan that's just tougher to cut. But on something like this, I don't know, almost damages things more than it helps. Now on the front splitter, I will be leaving more material, and then once it's mounted, that's when I'm really going to worry about this front splitter. The reason why is I do not want to cut it too short, because then I'm going to have a lot of air going under the body. Now, like I mentioned, I am planning on installing this in a nitro vehicle. And because I am planning on putting this in a nitro vehicle, I'm probably going to be cutting some vents. But first, I will run it, and I'll run it just for a few seconds, temp the motor. If everything's fine, I'll run it for a little longer, temp it. If it runs fine after a full tank, then I'll leave the body as is. If it starts to heat up a little too much, then I'll start making some holes and vents. But the hole in the rear is going to be so massive, there's going to be a lot of air escaping. The only, say, potential issue that some people may point out is there may not be enough fresh air going in to cool the heatsink. But maybe there will. I just don't know how much air is going to go under the body and up there. Keep in mind that on monster trucks, the heatsink is almost all covered. If you look at a Revo, there's actually very little that's coming out, and it's toward the back of the vehicle, so fresh air on that part of the vehicle usually doesn't cycle through. It's more of a convection effect in that little area. Similar to pickups. If you've ever seen a pickup truck driving down the road at higher speeds, and then you see that little piece of trash, little cup or something just kind of going up and down a circular motion near the back of the cab in the pickup box, that's the same thing. Now, one of the things to note on this is the following. So I went ahead and trimmed on this second line. Depending on your setup, now I've seen this already on another car, on a friend's car. That's the reason why I trimmed it here. But if you wanted it to be a little lower, one of the things that I'm going to point out is the following. You can cut right in here and just leave that underneath. It just depends on how high your car is in the front. Now, the shocks that I'm using on the car that I'm experimenting with, I put some internal limiters. Therefore, the front suspension arms do not extend very long. So this will be fine. And that is it. All right, so here's the body. This is a basic trim. And now I'm going to go ahead and just start rounding some of the edges. And this is sort of the problem that you may run into with some of these. You have to do the round edges, but it's not that big of a deal. So if you notice, see that's nice and round. So you want to start, I don't know if you can actually see that piece. It's very difficult to tell. You want to start your cut farther down so that the scissors start grabbing properly, and then you do the trim. So these, see how I started really far back, just got a small little edge, and that is it. So that's how you're going to do all the trims on here. So if you end up buying a lexan body, just doing it yourself, which you probably will, more than likely, this is what you're going to end up doing. If you do a 67 Mustang by Proline, this 3773 model, here you go, you have the basics right here. But the most important thing is to get the curved scissors. Now I'm just going to show you the body reamer. I'm not going to actually ream any holes onto this body because I need the vehicle that it's going to go onto. But I will give you a recommendation. And that is use a marker that is a non-permanent marker, or even a permanent marker, to be honest. Now that I think about it, doesn't matter because there is a protective film on these lexan bodies. So if you use a permanent marker, it'll just mark the protective film. This is why it's so dull. The little plastic film that you have to remove. And actually if you just kind of scratch on it, it'll come off. If it's not doing it, sometimes if you grab tape it and then peel, it will come off. All right, I'm going to cut this way. This is the final trim. But you're gonna grab a marker and just mark the points before you paint. If you do that, you set the body on top of whatever vehicle is going, you're gonna see the post, line everything up, just grab the marker and just put a little dot in the center of all four, remove the body, and then you can take the body reamer and you can ream the holes. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you in here, just on here. You just go in there, get your fingers out of the way, and then as you press, you turn right. And you don't wanna go too hard, too fast, because if you do that, it's not gonna cut right. And you're gonna notice you're gonna end up with this weird S-H shape. But if you just, you'll feel the speed as it's cutting. You'll get a nice, perfect round hole. Depending on the size, you may want to go 7mm. If it's a larger scale, 8mm perhaps. And it has the millimeters marked right on there. There's a few brands that you can get. You don't have to go with anything too fancy. And don't drop it on the ground, you'll damage the tip. But here's the body. Now let me just grab the other body, a 1/10 scale so you can see it, and then I'll go on to cutting the wing. This is a 1/10 scale body. This is what I love running for VTA. It's my favorite body. And I mean, notice the difference in size. It is a huge difference, which is why I'm trying to see if this fits the nitro once I mess with the arms. I'll do a video eventually if I'm successful or if I fail. That way you know what I did, so that maybe you can be successful in doing so. But again, 67, 68 Mustangs here, and it's quite a size difference between them. This is for a slash, which is closer to 1/8. This is a 1/10 scale. And it's always a good idea to keep a few spare bodies. I also have a 1970 Mustang Body by HPI. 1970 is actually my favorite Mustang model. Yeah, it was the only one. I'd not seen those bodies in years, so HPI stopped making them. And then all of a sudden, I went to a shop and they had one there. It's just, I had to buy it. All right, so as I keep mentioning, just cut straight lines. If there's straight lines and you can cut all the way through, just cut all the way through. Now, on something like this, cut the excess off. And the reason why you want to cut this excess is because you have to trim through here, through all of these curves, and this is somewhat difficult. All right, go through there. Yes, you could use a rotary tool such as a little Dremel, but I find that that melts the lexan sometimes a little too much, or it just creates too much little melted plastic garbage around it, so it makes it harder to follow the lines. All right, so I get my scissors stuck, and I'm gonna go ahead and trim this, and I'm gonna stop before the line. And I'll be honest, usually you don't want to do this. And the reason why is you'll get that little crack or break at the end, especially on these hard bends. But over here, I stopped so much farther behind this line, it doesn't matter, because that's gonna go away with this cut. And there, see, it's gone, it's still sticking. That's how you know you didn't go way too far. And just do a straight cut, and sometimes it's easier to cut bits in pieces. So these little sections, you can try to go all the way through. So for example, here you can try to do this. I'm doing it just because I feel confident, but you'll notice here my scissors are now getting stuck. Why? Because these two pieces of lexan are coming tighter together, so they're creating more friction on the blades. And there's really no need to mess around with all of that. Just do an extra cut, cut that bit off. It's really that simple. Now here, I should have done this. I should have kept this off. Oh well, I already started that. But let's see. I'm gonna start over here and get rid of this lexan. Once I do that, I'll worry about this back part. So this is going to go this way. Actually, no. This one goes straight here, and you're going to drill a hole there, and this is going to attach to the back. So the wing, do you want that little piece or do you not? I'm going to cut that whole thing. Here we go. Again, feeling confident. If you don't feel confident, do it in more than one cut. The reason why I'm getting rid of this is in case it wheelies or flips back or tumbles, it's just more leverage for the wing to pop off, to be damaged. So you are coming off. But depending on your speed, aerodynamics, maybe you want it, maybe you don't. Here we go. All right, now that plastic that was coming off, that's that protective film that I was mentioning. All right, on this part, I'm gonna start back here. See, I left a little bit of excess there when I cut. That's so that I can begin my cut here as I start trimming this bottom portion. Here you just want to go slow. Once you start getting to this flat area, that's where you want to be careful because the scissors are just going to want to just run and do the cut. If you've ever cut fabric, right, you don't have to move your scissors up and down and isolate them. You can just hold them like this and run it through. You just have to be careful because you have other parts of lexan here that are trying to push you one direction or another. You don't want to do a crooked cut. Let's see. I have to go this way. And then also mind your fingers. Which is generally my biggest concern. Luckily, these scissors are sharp and I don't have to apply that much pressure. It's dull scissors that you run a higher risk of cutting yourself because you end up applying more pressure. And then once the lexan finally gives, those things just run out of control. Then you end up stabbing your hand. But here it is. That white there, that's just from the protective film. So you would paint this down here on the bottom, and then you would remove this film from the top. And this, if you do end up keeping it, I don't think I'm gonna put this wing on, to be honest. Maybe I will, maybe not. It would just go back here. So you're looking at that, just like that. Right? And what you would do, first, do the holes here. After you do the holes there, then you mock it up to the car, grab that little marker, just paint the holes on, and that'll let you know. Now, based on the dimples, this is the concave side. This is where you want to start this off. So I'm going to go here. There's a little hole. Don't make it too big. Remember, screws are about 3 millimeters. So do it about 3 millimeters, a little more. But that's all you do. So you do all three. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to be using the wing. If I do, I'll worry about it later. But this is all you do. Then this would just go here in the back. Place it in the correct spot. Once it's in the correct spot, you go ahead, just grab your pen marker, mark that little hole, mark the other one, mark the other one, and then you go through and ream. Now on this body, the dimple's already there, so you don't even have to do that. On other bodies you would. Just stick your reamer in there, and there, make the holes. Grab 3 millimeter screws with a little nylon locking nut. It does come with screws, there's no nylon, and that's fine. If you use those, just put a little bit of glue on the nuts. Sometimes they do rattle off, so keep that in mind. But those are the basics on a lexan body. So I hope this is helpful for all of you that are new. Please comment below. Also, if you're not new and you were watching this, comment below any strategies that you may have, or if you know of the other sided scissors. Please subscribe if you have not, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.
Oh, my hair! My tongue! My rod!